Do you feel like you're paying too much in taxes every year, or have a relationship with your current CPA where you only meet them once or just before tax time? Look, I want you to know that there is another solution to paying less in taxes and keeping more of your money. Valard Advisors is a leading fractional CFO and CPA firm that specializes in advanced tax strategies for founders, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Valard Advisors can help you navigate the complexity of business taxes and ensure that you're paying the least amount in tax possible. But this is far more than tax preparation. This is strategy. This is really getting into the data-driven decisions that your business needs to make in order to develop a long-term strategy that aligns for your business and personal goals. Whether you're looking to minimize tax liability, maximize your deductions, or plan for your financial future, Valard Advisors has the expertise and experience to help you get there. Do not wait until tax season. Work with professionals today. Contact Valard Advisors to schedule a consultation.
And for John and I, when we first met, we were both hungry. We were on a mission to create results. We were in a business, Candy, for 10 years. I worked through my pregnancies. I was pregnant with Christina. And then on that following Saturday, that same week, we got in the car and we were building the business.
Welcome to Generation Wealth. I'm Candy Valentino, and I've been building businesses and generating wealth before I could legally order a drink. For more than 2 decades, I've built, scaled, acquired, and exited businesses, all while investing in real estate and building financial freedom. Now I want to help you expand your wealth and give you the proven roadmap to implement today. It doesn't matter if you're a part of Generation X, Generation Y, or Gen Z. It is time to join Generation Wealth. Now let's get started. All right, guys, you are in for it today. I am so excited to welcome my friends, John and Nadya Melton, to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. And we cannot hide it, baby. Don't hide it.
I'm so excited for this conversation because I think anytime you can talk to titans in any industry, even if it's not an industry that maybe somebody listening is in, there's so much value that can be unpacked. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you feel when looking back that you guys have done to really make you a leader in your industry. I mean, top 50 people in your profession. What are some of the things that you feel that you really did to get to the position that you're in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excited to have this conversation because I think it really is the X factor. And it's the self-education. Like, most people, which is ironic because I was a terrible student. I dropped out of community college. I cheated my way through high school. Like, thank God my mom was a school teacher because she would do my homework for me. I'm not kidding. But I definitely realized very early on, because we got into the right business and got some mentorship and, realized how little I actually knew about business and sales and money and business, all these things, right? That you started to realize the potential through that self-education. And that's what we've done for 20 plus years is we've continued to invest in ourselves. Obviously, at this point in our career, we invest in a lot of which is how we met you, right? In masterminds, going to seminars, hiring a coach or someone that specializes in something. Like recently we brought on Gary Brecka, right? To analyze our DNA and our blood work to help us out with different aspects of our health.
For health.
So realizing the importance of investing in ourselves forever, indefinitely. In fact, Nadya just recently on her birthday weekend did a 4-day virtual wealth mastery event with Tony Robbins because you never want to get to that point where you're complacent.
Yeah.
So good. So lifelong students, right? And I think it's so important because I don't know what it is. I've seen the opposite sometimes where people think they know everything. And they have such an ego that they don't want to learn something new because then they feel like, oh, someone's going to think less of me. And although you've continued to ascend and earn more and become more successful and create more assets and have a larger team and hundreds of thousands of customers, it's like you're still in it, learning and evolving. And is that just a choice that, especially you as a couple, that you've just decided to do? Because sometimes you can have a couple where one person's like, let's do it. And the other one's like, oh, this is a cult, right? So how do you guys fix and just decide on what you want to partner on and focus on?
Oh, that's such a good question. For us, we met, like we grew up in business together. So we have like this fairy tale story, baby. You got so lucky, right? But no, it's true. Like it's when you have that principle of Kanai, which I learned from Tony Robbins when I was, 19 years old, constant and never ending improvement. And for John and I, when we first met, we were both hungry. We were on a mission to create results. And then I feel like because for us, we were in a business, Candy, for 10 years where we did everything offline and we worked so hard. Like I worked through my pregnancies. I was pregnant with Christina, right? So she came on a Tuesday. She was 10 pounds, 2 ounces. On a Saturday before that Tuesday, we were doing a Saturday training. We were doing something on a Sunday. We gave birth on Tuesday. And then on that following Saturday, that same week, we got in the car and we were building the business. Like we were so obsessed. But my kind of foundational belief now is if your path is harder, your calling is higher. Mm-hmm. So for me, because I'm not born in the US, I moved here at a very young age and I had like a passion for like, my gosh, I need to move my family here. I want to have freedom. I want to have lifestyle. And like my money story was crazy too. Growing up in Russia, I had a different level of motivation. And then John...
We call that contrast.
I know. I had such contrast and leverage. And then when I met John, my inner voice said, I'm going to marry him. And at the time, I thought all men were weak sauce. So it was really a divine intervention, Candy, that like God was smiling upon me to put another go-getter in my life, because I don't think you could have like succeeded in a relationship with somebody with no vision. And my visionary brain definitely would not be in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, we basically grew up in network marketing. We raised our kids being in network marketing. And one thing with network marketing that we realized early on is that you have to invest in yourself. And, if you want to grow your business and your bank account, you got to grow yourself. And what we found is over the years, now we're a lot more selective. Like she said, we do these weekly meetings and we were the ones running those seminars. So we kind of had to be there, we felt like. But at this point in our career, now we're very selective with, the events that we attend. And, obviously, this, right? Because you get asked now that you're a lot more popular in this space, you get lots of opportunities to speak. So now you have to be kind of selective with, where you're going to speak. And, if it's virtual, it's a little easier to say yes. But even that, sometimes it's like, we have to have our team like look the person up and we're like, we don't want to be rude, but it's like they have like no social engagement. They've only had a handful of downloads on like their podcast or something. That's like, hey, set a goal. When you get to like 10,000 downloads, send us a message and we'll be happy to hop on your show, because you don't want to say yes to everything. Although in the early years we did, we tried to be, we were a little bit starving back then, but we got to that point where we realized like we wanted to have that healthy balance of like lifestyle, freedom. And, right before this recording, we were talking about how we're going to Monte Carlo on Saturday to speak at a mastermind. It's like twist my arm, right? Like come to South France. Like, okay, yeah, sure. That
makes good sense.
Sounds like a great tax deduction, but it's definitely important for you as an entrepreneur to really, and it's not just like the self-education, it's being with other go-getters, other ambitious people that you can feed off of and, bounce ideas off of. That masterminding, that networking is priceless.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so important what you said, that every yes you say, you're saying no to something else. And so it's really important to choose your yeses, because just like our money, we need an ROI on our time. That's the one thing we don't get back, right? We can always make more money, but we don't get more time. So I think age, I think wisdom, and I think success makes us a little bit more selective with what we do. And so I think that that's good wisdom to share. And, you talked about, all of the things that you've done. I would love though to share, you said about network marketing, but you guys have done something unique also. I know other successful network marketers, but they don't necessarily have successful other things that they also have that aligns. And you guys have been very intentional I mean, we've been friends, I think, for the last 5 years or so. You've been very intentional about growing your personal brands and having other ways that you're generating leads and monetizing that, not just there, right? So you're multiple income streams, which is what we talk about. Most people get this wrong. They think, they have a book and then they speak and then they have a course and those are three. No, that's all under one active income, right? You've got multiple things. Can you share a little bit about your focus on that and what you've done to really monetize your social media to make it worth the ROI of your time to put it together?
Yeah.
You want me?
Yeah, you say and then I'll.
Because I know I just went on a rant there. About 10 years ago, we decided to start doing videos because we wanted to generate leads, build a following. We were sick of having to find people to talk to for our business. And then, of course, we started getting a really good response from our videos. And we're like, I wonder if there's a way to monetize this, where we can sell our knowledge and help people. Because, at the end of the day, when you pay attention, right? And as much as we were enjoying doing the free content, we started realizing we could build a business and create courses and do affiliate marketing and coaching and all these different things.
And do vertical integration. Yes. Right? Doing other businesses maybe uncorrelated, but make sense under the brand umbrella. As an example, oh my gosh, am I cutting you off? But I get excited. No. Okay, let me immediately share. And a couple of years ago, and Candy, we hired you for your business genius because you're such a mogul in the real estate space. So we had an opportunity to own this gorgeous property that made sense for us. Yes, to have a short-term rental and own real estate, and in Florida, and personal lifestyle experience, sure, but then also to have that property to run our leadership retreats. Yeah. So we started to strategically look for ways to vertically integrate things that we were doing anyway, but then how can we build a side business alongside? So this was one of the examples that we were able to do. So we've now branded it. We have a whole different kind of leg under this beautiful umbrella. And we now have 2 different properties. And we then, our LLCs, invoice our S Corp. So it's kind of cool. So we're able to do that as one of the examples.
Yeah, I mean, I think the neat thing too is that we got a massive tax break last couple of years,
tax shelter
which you hear about that stuff, and then once you're like, we're gonna pay this much instead of this much, and the whole okay, I want to buy more real estate.
Yeah, anytime, obviously with being friends, when we were originally talking about that and I saw you guys close on that, I was so happy for you because I knew not only was it going to do, but I knew the fire it was going to light, that you're going to be wait a minute, let's do this more. I love 100%. That. When we look at the social media, because obviously I know you feel that that's probably been one of your largest ways to grow to the level that you're at. You don't have to pound the 100%. Pavement and do trainings and all of that. Are there some things that you could maybe share that you strategically do on social media to generate leads? Because I think oftentimes people think social media selling is selling. And if you do that to your audience, you're going to turn them off and not drive them to you. Or there's some things that maybe thoughts that you have around social media selling specifically?
It's really interesting because we love attraction marketing. We've been teaching it. We're huge advocates of building a brand and putting out, either empowering, educational, or entertaining content, especially if you can be relatable and provide shareable content that people are like, ooh, this is so good, I want to share it. But however, our top sellers, they're selling. Yeah. They are talking about their products, telling their story. They're definitely educating and they're finding creative, fun ways to put themselves out there. But it's so interesting because in our profession, there's a lot of
secret agents.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate around you shouldn't sell on social media and you should leave with value, but normal people, a lot of times they're I don't know what that means, or they overcomplicate it, or they're doing all this value and they're not really having any results from it. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It depends on the platform, but on TikTok, as an example, a lot of our top sellers, I just interviewed a woman 2 days ago on my team. She brought in 220 new customers, did over 30,000 in personal sales. And she did that all from TikTok from complete strangers. And she's look, I'm just repeating myself over and over and over again because I've got so many people that are interested in my product. So it does take a little time which is always hard for us entrepreneurial driven personalities, right? We're like, I have no patience, but you're patient with it. Eventually you can crack the code and kind of figure out like your niche and your kind of style, personality, whatever, and how you want to talk on social media, who you want to talk to, the kind of person you can help. And really you're selling the solution, right? And sometimes people are trying to sell their product versus selling the solution, and sometimes rubbing some salt in the wound and talking about pain points. And, I think a lot of that stuff, we hear it over and over again, but sometimes we're not actually implementing the things we're hearing. We're just kind of going through the motions on social. And we really struggle with that clarity on like, who am I trying to help?
Yeah, I agree.
So rather than secret agents, you think that finding your niche, solving the problem, and really just going all out and selling, like, do you find that that's more successful right now?
Depends on the platform. Yeah, it depends on the platform. On Facebook, it's probably not going to be the best way to go about it.
You
can sell more in your stories.
So like 80% value, lifestyle, right? And 20% like you pepper it in like a good recipe. Yeah. You cannot start a good recipe with 100% pepper. You know what I mean? Unless you really like pepper. So but it depends. And what's interesting, Candy, like right now, John and I are in the midst of completely upgrading our system. Like we're building out a website. Yeah. We have this ATM system that we've been utilizing to build our business. That's very simple, very duplicatable. The platform was Facebook groups. But now the struggle became, wait a minute, there's so many tools. It's so overwhelming. So when a brand new person gets started, there's like too much. So how can we simplify, right? And I feel in 2023, when we take a look at the landscape of social media, the amount of content that's on the web, and they're merging AI technology with this ChatGPT. Anybody can become an expert, right? Because ChatGPT could legitimately optimize your title of your video, script out the video for you. Like there's so much noise and there's so many tools. How do we stand out, right? So my solution to any problem always is a 30-day run. And I believe there's an element of like, you need to have certainty in how you are going to show up the most confidently to represent your business, your product, whatever it is that you're excited about. But then also there's platforms. You got to pick which one kind of jives with you best. Yeah. And then you show up to that particular platform for 30 days. You throw everything at it but the kitchen sink. I like that American phrase, really gives you a great visual, So you throw everything at it and you identify like what works best for you, looking for that sweet spot, right? Between what your people want from you, what it is that you can provide to find that unique voice of yours. Once you get that dialed in, you outsource the tedious pieces, right? I think as an entrepreneur, you guys, let me know. Do we all struggle with the superhero syndrome? Like it's obnoxious. We overestimate how much we can do. We underestimate our bandwidth. We continue to burn ourselves out. So it's that constant dance, with scaling like your operations, scaling your team, and then really identifying where your talent lives and what moves the needle in your business. And everything else, this is, I feel like, part of my hardest job. John is like in a relationship. He is the wow and I'm the how. Do you know what I mean? So he brings to me these beautiful ideas. Baby, we should do this. Baby, we should do this. Let's be clear. There's a million ways to make $1 million right now, right? And so many people get the shiny object, let's try all these things. The truth is we cannot do it all. We can have it all, we can't do it all, or we can't have it all at once. Now, my job as the how is to look at our scale, to look at economy of scale, to look at our bandwidth, and then also to ensure it's aligned with our brand and does it make sense for our long-term goal. Anyways, I said a lot. Did it make sense? I really enjoyed what I said.
I enjoyed it.
I thought it was great. My head was nodding. I didn't want to interject.
We call that entertainment.
I love it. No, it's so true, because I think that that's actually what trips a lot of entrepreneurs up, I believe, in my opinion, is that there's so much opportunity and there's so many options and there's so many people teaching something and there's so many different ways to build a company and be successful even. And so rather than just sticking with one, even if a 30-day run or a quarter or a year and going all in on something, it's just all this distraction and it really dilutes their focus to do anything successful. So I love that. And I think that it speaks to that, you know, I always say people and processes. The only way that you're going to get to that next level of growth is to scale through people and processes. And I know that although you are front facing with a lot of your team and on social, that you do have people and processes in place that have helped you get to the level that you're at. So I'd like to, if you could just speak a little bit to that, of some of the maybe the team that you realize you had to delegate to pretty quickly, some of the processes may be in place. And then I know we have to touch on what your ATM is, because you dropped it and everyone's going to be like, wait, what is that? So you have to talk a little bit about that too.
I love it. Thank you. Yes. So, you know, in 2013, when it all began, my beautiful business transformation, like I was burned out yet again. And I felt like it was almost a divine intervention. Like God hit me like on my head and said, Nadya, legitimately, you can have it all. You cannot do it all. And my motto at the time used to be, if I wanted to be done right, I better do it myself. And that was a bad motto. And I had to upgrade it to the motto of, look, if it's done at 80% quality than what I would do at 100%, that's infinitely better than me doing it. But being a control freak and a perfectionist, it was it was like almost impossible for me to graduate into that mindset. So I got myself an assistant, Marie, but baby, do you remember Marie? I hired Marie, y'all, on Upwork.com for $3.50 an hour. My favorite country to outsource to. We have now a virtual staff. They're like family to us. We have people in Philippines, our project managers.
Not Marie. Marie's long gone.
Oh, Marie,
but we upgraded since then.
We did. But Marie, like, she started us on a journey because this is when I learned your team doesn't cost you money. Your team makes you money.
Exactly. Like, it costs you more not to have them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so today
cost you your sanity.
Oh my gosh.
Like all the tedious questions that we get. I mean, the one thing we've come to realize, we don't like repeating ourselves.
Oh no.
Right?
I already said it once. I said it beautifully. Do not make it.
So if we can just create SOPs for like videos, PDFs, tools, like, you know, in our Facebook groups, right? ATM stands for add tag message. We add people to our group. We tag them in a video that explains the thing. Don't try to explain the thing, sell the thing that explains the thing, right? Like promote the thing that's going to sell for you. But we started to realize, like, man, if we could have, you know, these guys like help out with, you know, the video editing or the organizing of the guides in our groups. And, you know, when someone has a question, they can tag them in a recording or a PDF or whatever. Like it's now we're like spoiled by it, because now it's just, you know, it's like, what else can we have them do, you know, and who else can we hire? And then when we hire a new person, our existing team is the one that helps us sort through the applications. And then when Nadya makes the final decision of who we're going to hire, the team trains the new person on the team. So it's like we're hiring assistants for our assistants, and you know, it really does create this synergy and you know, it gives us the freedom.
And I feel like the best way, like if you're listening to this right now and you go, wow, I would love to have a virtual team. I don't even know where to begin. The best way that I always ground myself in those moments, right, Candy, where as an entrepreneur, we feel so overwhelmed. There's so much to do. I always ground myself in, okay, what is my number one initiative right now? And what is my number one stressor? And usually when I have that clarity, like for an example, John, a couple of years ago, he was in his Facebook Messenger and he was in the weeds.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's number one stressor for me, honestly. I can't even get his attention. He's not even paying attention to his own wife. This is upsetting indeed. So I told my team, I'm like, you guys go audit like last 3 days of messages and let's create, like, I just need data to look at. Like, what is repetition? Like, let's think about repetitive messages he's sending out. And once we had that data and we organized it, we said like 90% of the stuff, he does not even need his talent involved. And we created an SOP, a standard operating protocol for his inbox to now sort the leads that our marketing is generating. Beautiful blessing, beautiful problem, beautiful solution.
And the team chats. We have like, dozens and dozens of team chats, and they're on top of it. They help micromanage all of that. And, you know, when we're traveling or we got things going, like they're just so on it. And I literally don't
and everything
know what we do
is an SOPs, right?
So even if they take off for the week, one of them goes on
somebody
vacation.
else goes and picks up an SOP. They can follow it. It's kind of like McDonald's. You know what I mean? That's where my inspiration is. Not for food. I unsubscribe from eating there, but there's systems that genius. You know, every McDonald's you walk into, menu is always the same. Fryer's always on the left. So you always have to be asking yourself this question: how can my business be system dependent? Yes. I love the way, Candy, you put it, right? Processes and people. How can I create systems and people that you as an entrepreneur, we're working on the initiatives, we're working on the business, not being in the weeds with the business.
Yeah.
So without those systems and the virtual staff, and we outsource internationally, which if I were to hire our team today, 20 plus people, some of them are contractors, some of our full-time virtual staff, it would cost me at least 5 times more expensive, maybe more. So our margins are crazy. Like we have a couple of financial advisors, and they look at our numbers and they go, you guys, to do the kind of revenue, like bottom line net cash flow that you do with smallest tiny margins, like it's unheard of.
Yeah, like typically you'd have to have like 50,000 a month in overhead to make that kind of money. And it's so crazy to think that more people aren't optimizing this.
It's unbelievable.
It's like, why not? Why wouldn't you? But I think it's like Nadia said in the beginning, it's like most of us are control freaks.
Yeah.
But you can't scale your business if you're not duplicating yourself.
Yeah, I call it control-itis. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs have control-itis. They think they got to do it all. Or competency sarcoma is the other one, like where nobody else can do it as good as they can. Yeah. But the 80% and done is where it's all at. If you can get anyone to do it. It starts at 80.
Now it's like there's people on our team, they can do stuff better.
Amen. Yeah.
Like what they do, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I like that a lot more, you know?
Yeah, right. And then, okay, now you want that person to train the next person because they're doing it better than you could train them to do. Yeah. So I love that. And I think it's any problem in business we ever have. It's like when you're thinking about the solution, the way to solve your problem, the clue is not you. The clue is that it's a who that is not you. And the more that you can think about who can solve this problem as opposed to how can I solve this problem, the better that company is going to grow and the faster you're going to scale. So I love that you're doing that and have been able to do it effectively overseas because people want to do that, but then they don't actually do it. Do you find it's difficult to manage in the beginning because they're not in-house? And how long was that learning curve to get past?
Yeah, great question. So you know what got me on the journey? So I believe first we got to catch mindset. 80% is in psychology, 20% is in the how-to. So for me, once I read the 4-hour work week, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to begin thinking globally like Coca-Cola, So he kind of like opened up this window of opportunity. And then there's a company. So we used Upwork for 90% of my team. And what I love about a platform like that is they, host obviously the contractors, right? The people that need work and people who are in use of that. And then they have this system where when the person is working for you, it's going to take a random screenshot and you have an opportunity to view their work diary. So that in the beginning for me was huge because me being a Russian, I was a little bit paranoid too. I'm like, wait, nobody's going to come into my land of job and try to kind of work and not get paid and not do the work. So I loved that they had that in place. Do you know what I mean? So, and I started, like I said, just 10 hours a week to train myself. Right. I think in the beginning, we need to train ourselves to just let go of control. Mm-hmm. And I would, the fastest kind of way to maybe get that done is you record yourself doing the task. That is a repetitive task. So I would record my screen. I would explain the task. Like I would watch it if I had amnesia and I wanted me to remember why I do what I do and what is the steps and why do I do it that way. And then I would just save that video in Dropbox. So I started to kind of create evidence of me doing the work, so then I don't have to repeat myself. My gosh, I don't really like repeating myself.
But also, it does help you also, and gives you that kind of clarity on like, okay, I could actually do this more efficiently.
Yeah,
you have to like teach it.
When you turn around to teach to somebody else, it makes you bring that next level of discernment, and you also start to see even shortcuts in your own work. Overall, it makes you better entrepreneur when you start to teach. So I think for me, like starting like that baby steps, or even there's websites like Fiverr.com, where if you don't even feel like you can commit to somebody on a weekly basis, you can even do per project, right? And I remember hiring somebody for $5 or $10 to create like an outro and an intro to a video, maybe. But I used to think we were so cool back in 2013 with our intro and outro. It cost me like $5. I was psyched because that I had no idea how to create whatsoever. But it like created like a little bug, Candy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa. And then you start to see opportunities. Like when you don't have a car, right? And you feel like nobody has it. When I bought my first Tesla, I have this Model S, and now we have 2 Teslas. But when we bought the first Tesla, I'm like, dude, I am the first one, I swear, in Maryland with this beautiful car. And then you know what happens next?
See it everywhere.
You see it everywhere. You're like, what happened? I didn't see it before. That's kind of what happens with.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, so I think anyone listening, you got to capture that. Record it like as if you have amnesia, and you need to remember that, because I love that. That's a great analogy that like you have to get it all out. I always think too, if our team is not doing something that we are wanting or expecting, it really always comes back to us. Like how well did we train them? How well did we communicate? What's the proper expectations that we have? How are we following up and continually training? So I love that. Now we talked a lot about a lot of the things that you're doing right. And whatever a lot of people always love to hear is entrepreneurs who have been successful, investors that are successful. What are a few things that maybe they did wrong, so that if someone's listening and isn't quite as far along in the journey, that they could maybe avoid a few potential pitfalls or mistakes that maybe were some that you may, if you're willing to share any?
There's so many ideas I have.
So like some of the recent ones from last week or last year.
I know, it's true.
Gosh, I would probably say with investing, because that's something where it's like hot on our mind right now, is just being very careful when it comes to the FOMO. Right? Whether it's crypto, whether it's some, everybody's getting in this thing. It's like, that's probably the time to not get into it. Right. But there was a quote from this Wealth Mastery that was really good. And she always gets mad because I don't say the word per word.
Did I say it?
Basically, go ahead.
Okay. Yes.
It was amazing.
Yes. The return of your investment is infinitely more important than return on your investment. Right. So, and I think for us, the biggest lesson at this moment.
And by the way, that sounds like common sense. Humbling. Sounds like common sense, but how many times have investors, you put something into something because you want to get a great return and you don't even get the initial investment back?
Oh, no.
And it's like, dude, what, like that? Yeah. Anyway, so sorry to go.
There's a lot of things right now too in that whole fund space that just like let people aware of without getting into too specifics, but you got to really watch. Like there are people I'm seeing it, like people that just last year that I talked to for the first time that didn't have any properties. Fast forward, like 3 months later, they now have a real estate fund. And I'm like, and so that's happening. And then you have this other stuff where people are losing millions in some of these crypto type of technologies and currencies and stuff. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits coming. I mean, there's a lot of fraud going on in the space, because I think that everybody wants to get that quick, shiny hit, but really the fundamentals of finance and wealth are boring. They're ordinary. They're normal. It's like the shiny stuff, can it work out and you get a better return? Sometimes, but you have a greater chance of losing it and not getting any cash on cash just as a return, let alone a return on investment. So I think that that's good. And I just wanted to drop that in because I was having a sidebar conversation with someone who lost about $5 million, just thought it was the greatest shiny thing. And someone sold a big smoke and mirror show, and he kind of knew, but did it anyways and lost a lot of money. So it's really sad what's happening. And I think it's really important for people to make sure that you're working with people that have experience and time in the market and have been through recessions. Like there are people that have funds that haven't even been through 2008 or the savings and loan crash or, the towers in 2001. So I think it's an important conversation.
Yeah, they don't have a track record. And, the thing that's, it's so funny because no matter how smart you think you are, there are people out there, they spend all day trying to figure out ways to get your stupid money. Yeah. And we call it the stupid tax.
Yeah.
It really is so challenging. But, at the same time, too, if you just let it sit in the bank, right, with inflation, your money's getting devalued there, too. So, and then just recently, there were people that lost money having their money in the bank. Like literally, the banks went under and you're like, So I also understand that it's not that easy to make the decision as to where to put your money. But, like you said, track records, people that, are obviously experienced in the different times, the season, like the season we're in right now, it's the winter season. So if someone's been through that and they got on the other side of it and they're still in business, like that's definitely a more reliable person or company or entity to invest with for sure.
Yeah. 100%. I think for me at the moment, what's screaming loud and proud is the lesson of asset allocation. Like, sure, it's okay to take some risk, like very marginal, like you have to be very aware of like, okay, what part of my portfolio is my stay rich money? Or for those of us that are just coming up, like one of our big lessons that we learned, because there was a stretch of maybe like 7 years where we had a goal, maybe not 7 years, but like a couple of years, we would set a goal to make 7 figures. And like, it would not happen. Right. And we kept tweaking and we kept working and we kept like showing up with value.
I'm like, why are we even setting the goal?
And
we don't
John, yes. And 1 year, right, baby? I'm like, John, we're going to write down the goal to make a 7-figure income. And he goes,
How are we going to make it? I don't want to write it down if we don't have a plan.
And I said, I'm like, baby, the how-to is none of our business, right? Like we like put all the right pieces in place, but that was the year too that I learned, wow, like having a bookkeeper, like 2015. So 2013, I hired Marie, and 2015, I brought on Bonnie, and it was a life changer because I recognized too that even though booking to me would be such drama fest, and like I would yawn through my nose, but it needed to be done. And then it's miraculous what happens when you bring a set of eyeballs onto your books of somebody that loves it, and they see things that you would never see. And we started to kind of tweak our books and our back end and optimize. And then we did like some different things like with the tax stuff. And that was the year we blew past $2 million, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I believe God will not bless you with bigger territory until you can be trusted with the one you have. And just earning money is not the way to get wealthy, right? Like it's all about being diligent with being very much on top of like tax strategy. That's our biggest expense is taxes, right? Yeah. And over the last, for us year, we brought on this new tax optimization team, and we've been doing some really cool stuff with like real estate as a tax shelter. And we opened up our own 831B insurance company, which is beautiful because that's like a dual, like, benefit, right? Like on the insurance side, but also on the corporate side, like where that's a tax deduction on this side. Anyways, not to get too nitty gritty, but the drama's in the details, my friends.
Back to the failure thing is also never invest. And you kind of said this, but never invest with someone that if you were to say, oh, the money's gone, or the guy's a fraudster, it's a Ponzi scheme, it got shut down, like the guy disappeared, he's in China somewhere, apparently, we can't find him. Like, and if that happened, you'd go, yeah, that makes sense. Don't invest in that thing. Like if your response would have been like, yeah, I should have figured, then don't even mess with it. Don't even entertain that idea. Yeah. But that's what happens, right? We end up investing in something. Like you said, the guy knew it was probably a little sketchy, but he was hoping to make a bunch of money and then pull out his money. And then, and it's just foolish. It really, it's in $5 million. Oh my gosh. Like it's just it's hard to move on past that. You have to, you have no choice, but it's definitely like one of those things where you're like, even if I turn 5 million into 10 million, is it worth risking the 5?
And the sanity if it goes south. No.
Exactly. I agree. And even if you have 50 million sitting somewhere and it's 5 million, still 10% of your net worth. So it's a chunk, and for what return? So I agree.
And knowing that person took advantage of you and did some shady shit. Oh, it's just it's the worst. It's the worst.
Yeah, there's just so much heavy and negativity that comes with it. Yeah. And I think, just because we're on this topic, like we are going to be coming in, we are in winter, and it is going to get colder, unfortunately, for a lot of people that haven't done some things, because we don't know what we don't know. So anybody that might be listening that hasn't done a lot of these things, or is like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared, that's okay. Because you got to get the information, you got to take the next steps. But I do think that there are going to be some really challenging times for people. And so knowing what you know and what you've been through over these last 10 years and being at the height of your industry, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were like that guy, or you were like somebody else that maybe goes through a challenge and everything is gone for some reason, you wake up tomorrow and you don't have the followers that you don't have the income that you have, you don't have anything that you've built over all of this time, and it was gone. What are some of the few things you can only keep your knowledge that you've built and what you've learned? What were some of the things that you would do tomorrow morning in order to start to build it all back, to create that leverage that Nadya had, when you first moved here?
We'd be like Andrew Tate, like what happened to him. Like they just shut down all his social media, shut down his PayPal, his Stripe account. Like if that
no one will pick up your call. Nobody will text you back.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask too. Like, if I still had the relationships, it's probably an easy answer. But like, if the whole world had amnesia and they like didn't know me, that would be tough. That'd be tough. Even if you had your skills, nobody knew you. You ever remember Doctor Strange? Did you watch that with me?
Yes, I know Doctor Strange. Marvel,
it was a Spider-Man. Basically, they put on a spell and like basically nobody knew who Spider-Man was. Like they knew Spider-Man existed, but they didn't know he's Peter Parker.
Okay, so nobody knows real John.
So if nobody knew who John and Nadya were, that would suck. But
first, it would be all about bringing value.
Yeah.
Right? I believe in law of reciprocity. Yeah. There's fundamentals that are absolutely there. Yeah. So if you just put out the good, I would just show up very much aggression session. How much value can we bring? And nowadays, even if you're listening to this now and you go, I don't have a following, you guys, I immediately think of the days when I moved to America, I couldn't really speak English. I knew I wanted to make money, and like I learned really business English through starting a business. So I would start a business that served good value, and then I would just get myself in front of as many people. And now we have technology. With the push of a button, we can go live. Shut the front door. It's unbelievable. And then we have, ChatGPT. So there's unlimited opportunity with ideas. The content is no longer an issue. You have a co-pilot. So I would do that. What would you do?
Yeah, I would start a weekly show for sure. I would definitely 100% do a live Facebook show once a week, right? Just like we have Money Monday. Yeah. I would do that. I would have a weekly show. I'd be going buck wild on TikTok with, posting TikToks.
How many a day? 2 to 3 a day?
Probably 2 to 3 a day. Get to 1,000 followers, which you could do really quick on TikTok. It's one of the only platforms where you could still like build a following super fast without having any type of reputation or brand. And then you can go live on TikTok also. Mm-hmm. Like we've got people that are going live 2 to 3 times a day, in addition to posting 2 to 3 times a day on TikTok. And they are killing it. Like they're getting 10,000 new followers a month, 20,000 new followers a month. They're getting leads all day. I mean, literally they go live and they just keep repeating themselves and they're just making sale after sale after sale. And then on top of that, I would probably build an email list for sure. I'd find some type of freebie, some type of giveaway, PDF, something you can give people for free if they give you their email or even their text.
Because you don't own social media, right? Social media is great, but it's like rented real estate. You need to own your own opportunity. And it's an opportunity for you to build your own economy when you own your email list. So that is fundamental to any kind of business. I feel nowadays, Candy, what is your take? Text messaging list, email list, and then of course, what is a must is everybody read your book. Like that's fundamentally to have the mindset to create wealth. And you got to start with the end in mind. You know what I mean? So many people, I find, for me, one of my biggest pet peeves is you can't show up to social media building your business like it's a chore. If you're not inspired, you're not going to inspire others. You're not going to be able to lead people if you don't lead yourself first. And it starts with cultivating a big vision, like recognizing that you have a miracle in your mouth. And there are people out there that are praying for a solution. They're praying for an opportunity for you to get it together, for you to be bold, to have certainty, to have confidence, to project appropriately. You know what I mean? So it starts with you, it starts with mindset, and then execution. Look, money follows eyeballs. So if you don't have enough money in your bank account, that means not enough people know you or the value that you bring, or maybe you got to just show up long enough,
and
right?
Don't be boring.
Not yet. Oh, and don't be boring. That is right. Funny equals money. It's one of my fundamental beliefs for sure.
I love it. And would you start with products or would you do education? What would you sell if you started over tomorrow?
I don't think I would sell anything for 6 months.
I would just a product from somebody else. This is why we love network marketing.
I guess network marketing, affiliate marketing, but I wouldn't sell right away. I would try to build up some, it's that law of reciprocity, build up your social equity for it depends, right? If you got a job, then you have time. If you don't have time, that's all you're doing, then I guess you got to go buck wild with something. But I would say at least 6 weeks, but you could even argue 6 months of just building, and then drop something like it's hot and, monetize the heck out of it because you built up that know, like, trust.
Love it. I love that. I think that's great. I think if everyone just rewinds that little section, even if you're at a certain place in your business right now, you can still do that and watch how it will exponentially grow whatever trajectory that you happen to be on right now. So I love that. So I have one final question for you guys. And if obviously anyone listening, if they're watching this, they can see, but when you said, don't be boring, you guys definitely have mastered that. Not be boring, funny, engaging. I mean, it's just great to always see you guys.
Thank you.
So I just want to wrap with our final question. I always like to ask people, because I think this invokes different feelings in people, and whatever your answer is fine. But what is the definition of wealth to you?
Freedom. We used to think we were money motivated. And then once we made some money, we recognized it's not about the money, it's about the freedom to be able to build a business from anywhere in the world.
Wake up when you're done sleeping.
Go to
all Dylan's baseball games.
Yes.
Be on a baseball team myself now.
Go, baby. Be proud.
Although I think I have a fractured ribs. I
told you not to do it. I told you.
Not even kidding. I'm a catcher, and the guy foul tipped it right, and I turned, and it hit me right where there's no chest protector. So I can't even work out this week, which is upsetting because we're going to Monte Carlo on Saturday.
Priorities.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is freedom. And, sometimes people say freedom, but I think, in order to really create that, you have to do all that other stuff we were talking about with the delegation, the outsourcing, right? Because if you're working 8 to faint, right? And like you own a business that owns you and you just you can't, now you might have a season of that. But at some point, you want to be able to take a step back and you still make money without the stress and the full-time hardcore responsibility. So you can travel or spend time with family or do other things that give you that well-balanced life.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that because so often people want the freedom, they want the lifestyle, they want the glitz, but they don't realize what they have to build to get there.
Yes.
And so I love that. Like sometimes you are going to have to work, would you say 8 to faint? I love that.
8 to faint.
And just, you have to go all in if you want to accomplish something big. And it's, what are you willing to say no to so that you can say yes to far more later? So I love that you mentioned that. So I love that freedom. I'm with you guys. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you if they either want to join your team or find all the things that you do online, your programs, where are you guys at?
It's easiest to find us on Facebook or Instagram, John and Nadya Melton. Easy to find us there. But then we also have our website, mylifestyleacademy.com. We have a new resources page that is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
With all of our freebies and tools and anything that we would want to recommend to people, we put on that resource.
I mean, when we hear the same question more than twice, I'm like, okay, let us create immediately free resource, a little training, a little something. How much value can we bring? So website is amazing. That's an easy way to get us there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and spending this time with us. It's always great to see you guys and appreciate.
Oh, Candy, you are such a boss. I am so impressed with what you're doing. And seriously, I know I've said it to you multiple times, but legitimately, I am so grateful you're putting out this gorgeous value on how do we build a business? How do we save money on taxes? Like, that education is more needed today than ever, but also from people that actually have been there and done that, which is you. There's too many people out there that are now teaching
fake gurus
from theory. Do you know what I mean? So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for having us. We just love you and adore you. And we need to see you soon.
Love you guys. And don't forget that if you didn't buy a copy yet of Wealth Habits, it is now available on Audible. And thank you so much for all of your support, because we are #1 bestseller, new release in multiple categories. And of course, if you already have a copy of the book and downloaded it and listened to the book, please consider leaving a 5-star review over on Amazon. It would mean the world to me, as well as many other readers that need this information. Okay, guys, that's it for today. We'll see you next time on Generation Wealth.